Hello, I'm Candler Budd, and with me, as always, is Mr. Brian Chapman. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to pick some new films for you. These are not obvious choices. These are non-obvious choices, so you just might be surprised by some of our suggestions.
That was a perfect introduction. How could I even add to it, except to say, great to see you again. I think that our episode 0 with our picks were fairly fun. I think maybe it inspired one or two people to revisit.
Well, I'm going to start off with a movie that's so dark it has dark in the title. It's Donnie Darko from 2001. Stars Jake Gyllenhaal. It is a fantastic sci-fi thriller. It's rated R. After narrowly escaping a bizarre accident, a troubled teenager is plagued by a strange person in a rabbit outfit, and he's encouraged to do really bad things. But it's a fun story to follow. It has a lot of layers to it for both the characters as well as the story. It's set in the 80s, but it also feels like it was made in the 80s. So it's really authentic. One of my favorite scenes is one at the school, and you hear the Tears for Fears hit, and it really takes you back.
Great soundtrack.
Great soundtrack. There are some fan theories that there is a connection between this film and Back to the Future. It has time travel, and watch the film and then look up the fan theories. Pretty cool.
Very nice. This pick is probably the best pick, I think, in this group, possibly. So you have director Richard Kelly, which possibly his first movie. You have a lot of heavy hitters in there. To me, Jake Gyllenhaal is always good. I mean, I don't even have to like the movie that much, but he is so committed to his choices. And this is just one of those. I even like him as Billy Crystal's son in City Slickers. That's how good he is.
I forgot about that.
He's this small.
I forgot about that.
This is one of those that right after 2001, I had people telling me, you got Donnie Darko. Donnie Darko, you got it, Donnie Darko. I said, fair enough. And so I guess it having a cult following would be an understatement. Like, to me, this is one of those cult movies that has a massive fan base, lest we not forget the late Patrick Swayze.
Give it a shot. And if you've seen it, see it again. It's a movie you got to see again.
A young Seth Rogen is a goon, is a bully.
Right.
Goon in that. There's a lot of great people. Mary McDonnell is his mom.
Yeah.
She's always been good. Set in 1988. We know that because she's reading Stephen King's It on the back porch.
And the Dukakis debate, Bush-Dukakis debate is on.
Sure, yeah. So you have the political season from the 80s. We mentioned the soundtrack. The church singing Under the Milky Way is in, how many songs do we have to love? But that's like one of my all-time favorite 80s songs. And then the not very obscure but wonderfully named Echo and the Bunnymen with Killing Moon, I think. So this is they did it right. Drew Barrymore was very helpful in the project, I believe, in terms of getting it made. Noah Wiley was in there. We have a lot of good names in there. I know we're missing a few, but great choice. Thank you.
I think we need a hero right now, and I can't think of no better hero than Frank Drebin.
Oh my goodness.
A member of Police Squad. And the movie I'm talking about is The Naked Gun. It's directed by David Zucker, written by Jerry Zucker. Stars Leslie Nielsen, Priscilla Presley, Ricardo Montalban, George Kennedy, and of course, Weird Al Yankovic. And of course, O.J. Simpson. I think what moves me so much about the story are the passages. If I want to make this short, but do you mind if I read one of his selections? One of his speeches. It's really one.
Please.
The attempt on Nordberg's life left me shaken and disturbed, and all the questions kept coming up over and over again, like bubbles in a case of club soda. Who was this character in the hospital, and why was he trying to kill Nordberg? And for whom? Did Ludwig lie to me? I didn't have any proof, but somehow I didn't entirely trust him either. Why was the I love you not listed in Ludwig's records? And if it was, did he know about it? And if he didn't, who did? And where the hell was I?
Bravo. Thank you. You are much more prepared for this than I am. And that was, I hope that every young acting student takes that monologue and brings it into an audition. What was that from? The Naked Gun. I,
Yes,
I think you said naked. Nekkid. Naked.
naked.
Naked
Well,
Gun.
I am from Georgia. Yeah, Leslie Nielsen was a classically trained actor, and he was a serious actor. He played in a lot of serious dramas back in the day, and he was in westerns. He was definitely in episodes of Bonanza, and which
Yeah, he's in a Columbo episode. I have to always have to plug that.
always got to plug Columbo. So funny with you. And
Sorry.
he plays it so straight, and he says the most ridiculous things, and it's just I cannot tell you it has to hold the record for the most amount of jokes. I mean,
It is
it's so absurd.
rapid fire.
Yeah.
And if I may interject, so I'm so glad you brought this up. So I love part one from the Files of Police Squad. That's something to look into. People need to watch Police Squad, the TV show, the 6 episodes, because most of those jokes are sprinkled into part one and part two. Like they've taken most of the jokes. I will mention George Kennedy, rest in peace, who is always good in everything, as his partner Ed Hawken. I'm going to say this: I miss Leslie Nielsen.
Me 3.
I miss him. I mean, when I heard that he passed, it was just a bummer day. The Zaz.
Sorry to interrupt. Leslie Nielsen is one of those that just brings me joy. I think I would have the same reaction to Leslie Nielsen as I would Mr. Rogers.
Wow,
just pure joy.
Well, the performer and also just him embracing that, like you talked about him being in so many other things before he found comedy. Zucker obviously did Airplane, the movie, and had him play the doctor. And that to me was the starting point for them taking him and allowing him to have fun. It is rapid fire jokes. And by the way, if we want to make a little small connection before you continue, it's 1988. This was released. I wonder if Donnie Darko watched The Naked Gun, because
Perhaps.
same year. Let's throw in that conspiracy.
I love it.
But that's one of my favorite comedies, and I love anything that the Zuckers have done for the most part. That absurd brand of comedy will always be funny.
Absolutely. Now for something completely different. Brian and I, we recently did a series of commentary on the Back to the Future trilogy. You got to check it out. But anyway, we were talking about other time travel films. Donnie Darko came up, but also the Spanish film Time Crimes. Time Crimes. Horrible name. Awesome movie. Came out in 2007. I like it because it makes you think. It's the film takes place in one location pretty much. It's pretty centralized story, I think.
Right.
And the lead character is interesting. He's I mean, he really is an ordinary man, but he's ordinary in an interesting way.
Written, directed, starring Nacho Vigalondo. I had to look at it. Vigalondo. So he is he put this thing together. Special effects nil, I would say. Low.
There are none.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Low budget, but great story. Weird, bizarre. I would call it a thriller in a lot of ways. So if you look at the trailer, it almost feels like a horror movie. And there's a little misdirection there. But I just would say this is one of those movies that, not unlike Donnie Darko, which is totally different from Donnie Darko, but you want to watch it twice because of the way it is laid out for you. Just a brilliant little film, and one that's, because it is foreign language, has been missed in a lot of ways.
Maybe Time Crimes and Donnie Darko could be used as a double feature.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
By all means. It's dark, and I don't know where to find it. You know what I mean? That's the one thing about Time Crimes. Where the heck? I guess you rent it. You rent the thing.
Yeah, you go to Blockbuster and rent it.
Yeah, go to Blockbuster tonight. Blockbuster in America. So non-obvious choice number one for me is 2016's Shin Godzilla. So I have a few statistics here, but this is obviously a Japanese film. Give or take, at this very moment in history, there are 36 Godzilla movies. So it is one of the longest,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, longest running franchises. Obviously, Toho has done the lions share. And then, of course, you have the American, the two American. Well, then you have the Matthew Broderick, of course, but you also have the one coming up, which is basically Kong versus Godzilla. So this movie is first and foremost very funny because it is a satire. It won Best Picture that year in Japan, won Best Directors for those two gentlemen that I can name.
Brian, is the fact that it's a satire, how many Godzilla films do you think are satires or satirical?
Hardly any, I would say. This movie, the satire is coming in to talking a little bit about the earthquake and the tsunami of 2011 and the nuclear disaster, and just the political chicanery and incompetence that goes on. So I always find myself wanting to see Godzilla destroying everything. That's what everybody wants. But the interspersing of them trying to figure out how to deal with Godzilla and the politics behind it and all their organizations is really well done. It's deft, I would say. So incredibly popular. Like it was gangbusters, I think, in Japan, and of course as an import. My other one is a documentary from 1994, Hoop Dreams. And this was one that really was incredibly popular, and 94, as you know, is just one of the best years for movies. I think you've mentioned that before.
Yeah.
I would say that this is, in the context of where it lands in 1994 and all of the things that have come after it, these filmmakers were going to film these two ninth graders just for a little 30-minute short. And like, I guess 6 years later, they filmed their 4 years of high school of Arthur Agee and William Gates, and the story of their family and these two kids working their way to hopefully NBA stardom is one of the most riveting life stories I've ever watched, and it continues to go on like everyone else's life. Things have happened throughout this time period, and it is. I suggest it to anybody. I say to anybody who's never seen it, who loves, and this kind of came up a little bit because of the Michael Jordan series, The Last Dance, which has been on. This is in the 90s, so it's kind of in the time frame of all that great basketball. I love Hoop Dreams. Peter Gilbert, Steve James, Frederick Marks spent time with these families. They trusted them to film and to tell an honest story, and it's beautiful and heartbreaking and poetic, and there's a lot of moments that feel like it's almost Shakespearean in some ways. This is also a great reason to hate the Academy Awards, because that year it was
we needed another reason.
Right, it was not nominated. It was incredibly financially successful, and it was still not put in the category at all. If you ever want to know anything more about it, all you have to do is look into anything with Roger Ebert, the late great Roger Ebert, because he was. And Siskel, rest in peace as well, Gene Siskel. Both those guys were beating the drum for this particular movie's success, and were really vocal when it was not nominated, because it was clearly one of the best documentaries ever made, and certainly for that year it needed to be nominated. And of course they dropped the ball. So no pun intended. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Man, awesome list. We've got two sci-fi thrillers that are just fantastic. We've got one of the greatest absurd comedies of all time. One of them is a foreign film. We've got a satirical monster movie, and we've got a sports doc that has how many years has it been since 94? That people still are familiar with, and as we like to say, we don't like to say it, but we keep saying it. It holds up.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. I appreciate your list. These are fun to do, and we can have these again, which are the non-obvious choices.
And let me just say this: of all the people out there that don't like this list, it doesn't amount to a hill of beans, but this is our hill, and these are our beans. I'm quoting Frank Drebin from The Naked Gun.
Yeah, Priscilla Presley, she's so good.
She's wonderful. She's wonderful.
And you cannot go 30 seconds without a joke. And Ricardo Montalban, all those guys are so good. Please watch. Yes. I need to watch that. And part 2, 2.5, The Smell of Fear. needs to be watched right after. Those two go hand in hand.
Do you know what I wish for everyone watching this right now? I hope you watch The Naked Gun and you love it and you're laughing and there's someone in the room rolling their eyes at you. It's just, there's something about that that's so much fun. It's just that, yep, I think it's hilarious. I have,
Look, let's ostracise. If somebody doesn't like The Naked Gun, I don't know what's wrong. There's something missing.
Yeah.
You have to. There's something about it that's gotta resonate. It's one of the funniest movies.
You could say this: they're in on the joke. They're definitely in on the joke. Well, Brian, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you as always, and we'll see you next time, brother.